I welcome you for this React Prerequisites for Beginners Part 1 training course. The agenda for this lecture is Course Content Design for React Prerequisites for Beginners Part 1 training course. In the first lecture, Web Application Architecture Terminologies, we will learn about Web Application Architecture, Monolithic Application, Client Server, Front-end and Back-end, Front-end Frameworks, Front-end Frameworks Traditional Web Application, Front-end Frameworks Single-Page Web Applications, Back-end Frameworks, Full Stack Development, Main Stack, Merge Stack, Types of Software Developers, Software used in Full Stack Development, Microservices, and then Micro Frontends. In the next lecture, React and its prerequisites, we will learn about what is React, React versions, React essentials, pros of React, cons of React, prerequisites for learning React. In the next lecture, installation requirements for React. In this lecture, we will learn about Node.js, NPM, Visual Studio Code Editor, creating a new React project, React project folder structure, run a React project, NPM commands. In the next lecture, software development alternatives, we will learn about Vite, Parcel, Gatsby, Remix, Razzle. In the next lecture, software development alternatives, custom tool chains. In this lecture, we will learn about Yarn, NPM, PNPM, Babel, TypeScript, SWC, Webpack, and then Parcel, ESBuild, Tensor, Express, ESLint, Jest, NX, Turbo Repo. In the next lecture, software development alternatives, online playgrounds, we will learn about CodePen, Code Sandbox, Stack Blitz. In the next lecture, add a React component to an HTML page. In this lecture, we will learn about open HTML page, add a root HTML tag to the HTML, add the script tags, create a React component, add your React component to the page, reusing React components, minify JavaScript for production. In the next lecture, React and JSX, we will learn about JSX, add JSX to a project, run the JSX preprocessor, React without JSX. In the next lecture, software development add-on features. We will learn about popular source code editors, linting, ESLint installation and configuration, formatting, prettier installation, React Developer Tools, browser extensions, React Developer Tools, mobile React Native. In the next lecture, HTML Overview Part 1. In this lecture, we will learn about writing HTML in Visual Studio Code Editor, running HTML in Visual Studio Code Editor, HTML elements, HTML attributes, href, src, width and height, style, and then HTML comments, HTML style, colors. In the next lecture, HTML overview Part 2. We will learn about HTML, CSS, HTML, CSS inline, internal, external, color, font family, font size, link to external CSS. In the next lecture, HTML overview part 3. In this lecture, we will learn about HTML tables, HTML list, HTML list unordered, HTML list ordered, HTML JavaScript, HTML script. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview part 1. In this lecture, we will learn about overview of JavaScript, versions of JavaScript, Java versus JavaScript, JSON, script tag, JavaScript functions and events, JavaScript in head tag, JavaScript in body tag, external JavaScript advantages. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview part 2. In this lecture, we will learn about external references with a full URL, with a file path, without any path. And then JavaScript output using inner HTML, using document.write, using window.alert, using console.log. And then finally JavaScript print. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview part 3. In this lecture, we will learn about single line comments, multiple line comments, variables, where, let, constant, nothing, identifiers, data types, one statement, many variables, redeclaring variables. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview part 4. In this lecture, we will learn about JavaScript block scope, constant arrays, constant objects, data types, object data types, functions, local variables, object properties, object methods, thus accessing object methods. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview part 5. In this lecture, we will learn about string methods, string search methods, variable substitutions, arrays, arrays versus objects, when to use arrays, when to use objects, array methods, date objects, errors. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview part 6. We will learn about use strict, this in method, this alone, this in a function, this in event handlers, object method binding, arrow function. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview part 7. We will learn about modules, export, named export, default export, import, import from named export, import from default exports. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview part 8, we will learn about debugging, code debugging, debuggers, console logs, setting breakpoints, major browser debugging tools. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview part 9. In this lecture, we will learn about manuals and references, tools, tools transpilers, tools polyfills, garbage collections, scheduling. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview part 10. In this lecture, we will learn about synchronous and asynchronous, synchronous when to use, synchronous pros, synchronous cons, asynchronous when to use, asynchronous pros, asynchronous cons. In the next lecture, JavaScript overview Part 11. In this lecture, we will learn about JavaScript synchronous and asynchronous differences, synchronous by default, synchronous methods of handling, asynchronous callbacks, asynchronous promises, asynchronous async or await. In the next lecture, HTML DOM overview. In this lecture, we will learn about HTML DOM, that is Document Object Model, HTML DOM methods. In the next lecture, React basic concepts. In this lecture, we will learn about data binding one way, that is unidirectional, data binding two way, data binding component to view, data binding view to component, document object model inefficiencies, virtual DOM benefits, shadow DOM, virtual DOM versus shadow DOM. The next agenda is web application architecture terminologies. I thank you for participating in this session. We'll see you soon in the next lecture. Thank you very much.